When the car sped toward us, I pushed my husband away and got hit, ending up in a vegetative state. But Hunter forgave the driver for all her faults, married that woman, and even had a son with her. 3 years later. He said, "I don't want her lying in bed with no dignity," and then mercilessly unplugged my oxygen tube. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of the accident. This time, I didn't rush over to save Hunter like I did in my previous life. Instead, I coldly watched as he got caught under the car wheels. I watched as his legs, belonging to a dancer, were crushed, leaving him bedridden. Chapter 1. In my last life, after I died, Hunter sobbed at my grave. I thought he felt a little guilty toward me, after all. But then he said, "Thank you for the accident, it led me to the true love of my life." I was so furious that I almost crawled out of the grave to slap him hard. When I opened my eyes again, I heard Hunter urging me, "Amy, hurry up, or we'll be late for the movie." After my brain froze for a few seconds, I quickly realized I had been reborn. Reborn on the day of the accident. At this moment, Hunter was facing the wind, looking at me with his charming peach blossom eyes, with a smile still lingering on his lips. That affectionate look, as if he loved me so much. However, after the accident in my last life, I found out just how cold-blooded he was. When I was no longer of use to him, he not only defended the driver, saying it was my fault for crossing the road, but he also signed a waiver on my behalf, forgiving her. Worse yet, to legitimize his relationship with the driver, he unplugged my oxygen tube. The reason was ridiculously dramatic. Because the driver was his college senior, whom he had secretly admired for a long time. That woman took advantage of this, acting coquettish and pitiful in front of Hunter, completely fooling him. He married her and even bought a seaside villa as their love nest. And as for me, in my last life, I accompanied Hunter through the toughest 3 years, helping him become a somewhat famous dancer. Yet, when I bought an Armani lipstick for my birthday, he thought it was too expensive. That day, he threw a fit in front of the saleswoman and righteously said, "I didn't marry a wife to spoil her with money." Ha! It truly hit home that men aren't naturally stingy. They just don't love you. Because when he doesn't love you, even spending a penny feels too much. "Amy." Seeing that I didn't respond, Hunter called out to me again. I ignored him and instead looked around. When I saw a pink Hongguang Mini speeding toward us, the corners of my mouth involuntarily lifted. The culprit who kept me in the hospital for 3 years. It's here. But this time, I won't foolishly rush over to push Hunter away again. "Amy. What are you doing? Hurry up and follow me." "Ah." Hunter's impatient urging hadn't even landed before he was hit by the pink car. The merciless wheels ran over his legs. The sound of bones being crushed was strangely crisp and pleasant this time. Refreshing, even. "Hunter, in my last life, didn't you thank me for helping you meet your true love? In this life, I'll be the good person to the end and deliver you right under the wheels of your true love. My dear husband, how does the taste of true love feel?" Chapter 2. Hunter was severely injured. The doctors said immediate amputation was necessary to save his life. Without hesitation, I signed the consent form for amputation. I even instructed the doctor, we cut from the top of the thigh, and if that's not enough, waist-down amputation is fine too. I have no objections. Hunter had gained some fame in the classical dance circle. From childhood to adulthood, he had won numerous awards. People in the industry said he was destined to become a top-tier dancer. He thought so too. So, on a daily basis, he cherished his legs, often using my face masks on them. For a genius dancer to lose his legs and never step on stage again, this blow seemed more fatal than death itself. Sure enough. When he woke up, his face turned deathly pale as he looked at his severed limbs. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hands trembled uncontrollably. As I was enjoying his shocked and desperate expression, Hunter suddenly blurted out, "How did this happen? How did I end up being the one in trouble?" "What did you say?" I sharply looked at Hunter. Hunter raised his head and met my gaze, his eyes flickering unnaturally for a moment. But then, his eyes turned sharp as he stared at me. "Amy, what were you thinking when you crossed the road today? Why did you suddenly freeze?" "It's all my fault." If I hadn't spaced out at that moment, I would have rushed to save you first, and then your legs wouldn't have been lost. I didn't answer Hunter's question but instead hugged his severed legs, pretending to be heartbroken and guilt-ridden from his accusation. Hunter immediately lost interest in questioning further. He looked down at his legs, once again sinking into the sorrow of his amputation. My legs, my legs. Soon, a man in the hospital room cried so hard he nearly passed out. But soon, he would accept it. Just like when I lay on the hospital bed, hearing him forgive the driver and decide to marry that woman. All the resentment and anger would eventually be worn down by time. In the end, forced to accept the cruel reality. Chapter 3. After Hunter lost his legs, he became much more irritable. He stopped talking, refused to eat, and would smash things at the slightest provocation. He wouldn't see anyone but me. So I had no choice but to take care of him personally. To show my thoughtfulness, I even specially made his favorite braised pork today. Seeing the blisters on my hands, Hunter was quite moved and looked at me. Honey, does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. As long as you eat, this little injury is nothing. Hunter's eyes reddened with emotion, and this time he ate quite a lot. I had thought about kicking this scumbag to the curb. But my marriage with Hunter involved too many interests. Hunter and I co-owned a media company. When the company was first established, I was the one who invested. All of Hunter's performance gigs were ones I got for him by pulling strings. Even his signature dance piece was created specifically for him after I tirelessly persuaded the choreographer. After he became famous, our studio gradually signed more artists and transitioned from the dance industry to the entertainment industry, naturally earning more and more money. Logically, even if we divorced, I should be able to take half. But, in my previous life, I accidentally discovered that Hunter secretly transferred all company rights and assets to his name while I was home preparing for pregnancy. Now, if I were to divorce, I'd probably walk away with nothing. I've never been one to suffer losses. I want to bring down the scumbag, get a divorce, and keep the company. Hunter's hospitalization after the amputation, which lasted nearly 2 months, provided a perfect opportunity for me to subtly regain control of the company. To reclaim what's mine, I couldn't afford to fall out with my good husband. No matter how sickening it was, I had to pretend to be gentle and caring. Soon, I found an excuse to return to the company to take charge in Hunter's absence. After all, I had worked with these artists, so taking over was easy and smooth. But winning them over to my side would require a little opportunity. Just as I was racking my brain on how to quickly win them over, an unexpected guest arrived. That day, Hunter and I were chatting when the door to the hospital room suddenly opened, and someone walked in. When I turned my head, I saw a familiar face, and my brow furrowed. It was her, Leona. The very woman who, in my previous life, hit me and put me in a vegetative state, only to marry Hunter later. Leona didn't even glance at me as she passed by. Then she suddenly knelt before Hunter. Hunter, I beg you, for the sake of our past relationship, can you drop the lawsuit? I really can't come up with that much money right now. Her kneeling startled Hunter, and he blurted out, Honey. What are you doing? Get up quickly. Huh? Leona was clearly stunned by this address and momentarily forgot to cry, raising her head to stare directly at Hunter. At the same time, I also looked at him. Hunter quickly let go of Leona, awkwardly explaining to me, I was just anxious, so I said the wrong thing. Hunter didn't say the wrong thing. He just hadn't yet adapted to his reborn identity, which is why he instinctively called out the term of endearment from his previous life with Leona. That's right, I had long discovered Hunter's secret of rebirth. He didn't reveal it, and I didn't expose it. Revealing the secret of rebirth would be disadvantageous for me in reclaiming my assets, so I was more than willing to play dumb and cooperate with Hunter in his act of being a loving couple. Hunter. Leona spoke again, please don't sue me. If this goes to court, I'll never be able to become a civil servant in this lifetime. Hunter frowned and asked, lawsuit? Leona being sued was my doing. When Hunter was sent to the hospital, I immediately called the police and hired a lawyer to sue the driver. For Leona to say she didn't know who the plaintiff was when she received the lawyer's letter was impossible. She knew. But instead of begging me, she begged Hunter. I can only say this woman knew how to take shortcuts. She knew Hunter had feelings for her, so she also knew that begging Hunter was much easier than begging me. In my last life, Leona avoided paying and going to jail by throwing herself into Hunter's arms, easily resolving the crisis. It seems this woman wants to repeat her tricks this time. Chapter 4. Hunter, as long as you don't sue me, I'll pay whatever compensation you want. Upon hearing this, I, who had been silent, finally spoke up. Leona, since you put it that way, things can be easily resolved. Let's discuss the compensation amount. Hunter frowned and opened his mouth to speak for his beloved Leona again. I ignored him. Seeing that Hunter couldn't suppress me, Leona softly asked, How much do you want? Not much, 800,000. So much. Leona started crying again. All these years, it's just been my mother and me. We don't have much savings. Could I repay it in installments? After deducting living expenses for my mom and me, I'll pay you 800 yuan every month. Hearing this, I laughed. Leona, do you even realize the nonsense you're spouting? According to your repayment plan, you'll need 80 years to pay me back. Can you guarantee you'll live another 80 years? Are you here to fool a ghost? Today, either you settle it all at once, or wait for the lawsuit. Leona locked eyes with me, and amidst her tears, a flash of anger appeared. She must really hate me. But she was smart enough not to argue with me, suddenly swaying her body, putting on a pitiful act as if she was about to faint. Seeing this, Hunter's heart ached instantly. He immediately raised his voice and shouted at me, Why are you being so aggressive? Leona's family is already struggling. It's understandable that she can't come up with the money right away. We don't need the 800,000 that badly. I've decided to drop the lawsuit. Upon hearing this, a glimmer of hope appeared in Leona's eyes. Did she think she could avoid legal responsibility by relying on Hunter? She must be dreaming. Leona was raised in a single-parent household, her disabled mother bringing her up in poverty for the first 20 years of her life. It wasn't until she latched onto Hunter that she escaped the hardships and began living a life of luxury as a wealthy wife. Having tasted the pleasures of extravagance, Leona would never willingly return to her previous life of misery. She began to fear that I, lying in a vegetative state, might suddenly wake up and fight her for Hunter and his company. So, she plotted to kill me. It was her whispers that led Hunter to despise the money spent on my hospital care, ultimately pulling the plug on my life support. I've always believed in not attacking unless provoked. But if someone wrongs me, I will retaliate. In this lifetime, I will ensure Leona suffers the consequences of her wicked schemes. I looked at Hunter and mercilessly rejected his proposal. I'm the one pressing charges, your decision to drop it doesn't matter. Besides, she was driving recklessly and crippled my husband's leg, and you expect me to sympathize with her? No way. Hunter. Leona, upon hearing this, cried even harder in front of him. Out. Stop putting on a pity show here. Either pay up or face legal proceedings. There's nothing more for us to discuss. This time, I didn't give Hunter a chance to speak, roughly pushing Leona out of the room. Amy, what are you doing? You. Hunter, heartbroken, tried to protect his precious Leona. But alas, he had no legs. He could only sit on the bed, watching helplessly as I pushed Leona out. Chapter 5. Amy, when did you become so heartless? After closing the door, Hunter looked at me with discontent. You weren't like this before. You've become a stranger to me. I really wanted to curse him out. But after taking a deep breath, I managed to hold back. Is Leona the only one who can cry? I can cry too. I looked straight into Hunter's eyes, tears welling up as I accused him. I've changed. Or have you? You lost your leg, and just a few days ago, you were starving yourself over it. But the moment you saw your senior, you forgave her immediately. I bet it's not just about her being your senior, is it? Tell me. What's really going on between the two of you? Seeing my suspicion, Hunter didn't dare utter a word. His attitude softened immediately. Honey, I just didn't want things to get too tense between us since we're all familiar with each other. Is that so? Honey, you have to believe me. You're the only one in my heart, there's no other woman. A smart person knows when to assess the situation, and even more so when to humble themselves during a moment of weakness. Like Hunter right now. The reason he's trying to appease me is that he's afraid if he leaves me now, Leona might reject him because of his disability, and he'd end up with nothing. If I hadn't died once, I wouldn't have known that a man's affection can be faked is such an absolute truth. Fortunately, heaven has given me a second chance. I will never again be blinded by the false tenderness of a scumbag. I will make him pay. After Leona left, Hunter's phone suddenly pinged with a WeChat verification message. I didn't need to guess who it was. It had to be Leona. This woman is truly persistent. When kneeling didn't work, she switched to sneaking in contact. And without thinking, Hunter accepted the request, and the two of them started chatting intensely. I pretended not to know anything. Meanwhile, my only concern was how to win the hearts of the artists. While Hunter and Leona were rekindling their relationship, things were falling apart at the company. Our top traffic star was embroiled in a scandal. The artist was accused of being a pedophile. There were pictures and videos, and the attacks were relentless, causing Hunter's efforts to clear his name to fail. The public outrage grew, dragging down other artists at the company as well. For the sake of the business, Hunter informed the PR department to prepare a public statement to terminate Kevin's contract. But I stopped him. Amy, do you have a solution? Hunter looked at me in bewilderment. Even if I don't, I must come up with a way to save Kevin. My fist clenched, determination gleaming in my eyes. Hunter thought I was trying to save his money-making star and was deeply moved. But he didn't know. I had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to win people over, and I wouldn't let it slip away, no matter the risks ahead. This time, I was fighting for myself. Chapter 6. I ran myself ragged proving Kevin's innocence, exhausting every possible connection, while Hunter and Leona's relationship progressed rapidly. Thanks to Leona's daily soups, their gazes became so flirtatious that it was almost palpable. I didn't interfere. Instead, I worked hard to create private space for them, letting their relationship quickly escalate. After all, this development was all within my expectations. In fact, I believed their deepening relationship might just become the key factor in my divorce from Hunter. 2 months later, the court ruled that Leona was primarily responsible and ordered her to compensate me 800,000 yuan. If she refuses to pay, I can apply for mandatory enforcement. That evening, Hunter's phone wouldn't stop pinging with messages. When he didn't respond, a call came in. Why aren't you answering? I put down my utensils and looked at him with confusion. Hunter flipped his phone face down on the table, claiming it was just a sales call. Hunter, Kevin's child abuse scandal has been completely cleared up today. Everyone agreed to celebrate together, so I might be home late tonight. You should go to bed early. As his phone went silent for 5 minutes and then buzzed again, I got up and left the table. Hunter's eyes immediately brightened, unable to hide his excitement no matter how hard he tried. The moment I left the villa, he quickly had the driver take him away. I didn't need to guess who he was in such a hurry to meet. Leona, of course. 2 months ago, when I checked Hunter's chat logs, I used his phone to log into his WeChat on the tablet as well. When I opened the tablet, their conversation popped up. Leona had sent a picture of her arm, slashed open and bleeding profusely. She added a message, "Goodbye, Hunter." Was she threatening suicide? Over 800,000 yuan? That's pretty unbelievable. But Hunter fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I bet Leona would successfully win Hunter over tonight, all to avoid paying the compensation. Since Leona is so desperate, I can't afford to hold back either. I'll add a few bricks to help her become Hunter's wife. I dialed the number of the private detective I hired for 1 million yuan. What's happening with Hunter and Leona? Have they taken it to the bedroom yet? Make sure to record the whole process. After hanging up, I couldn't suppress the smile on my face. Now that things were settled with the company, I was contemplating how to go about the divorce. And as luck would have it, Hunter and Leona handed me a perfectly legitimate reason on a silver platter. Absolutely perfect. Chapter 7. Early the next morning, Leona came to see me. When she walked into my office, she was carrying this year's latest Chanel bag, wearing lambskin high heels, her head held high. Her appearance was completely different from the haggard look she had the first time I saw her. Now, she was full of arrogance. Like a proud swan. 800,000, not a penny less. Leona threw the bank card on my desk, a meaningful smile on her lips. Hey. I picked up the card in front of me, looked up, and stared straight at her. One night, and you got 800,000 yuan. Leona, that's quite the business you've got there. You. What nonsense are you spouting? Leona still tried to play dumb. I raised my hand and slapped her so hard her face swelled. Was my husband at least satisfactory last night? Amy, say one more word, and I'll sue you for slander. Leona's expression became a bit unnatural as she covered her face, but she still stubbornly met my gaze. She really won't cry until she sees the coffin. I threw my phone, screen still lit, in front of her. She lowered her head to see the trending topic, classical dancer Hunter suspected of marital infidelity. Below it was a picture of Hunter tenderly cupping her face and kissing her. And that wasn't all. I had pictures of them rushing to the bedroom as well. The private detective did an excellent job, every image was in high definition. Leona's debauched expression was crystal clear. This once again proved that the risk of having secret trysts without drawing the curtains is too high. You might just end up on the trending list, becoming the object of national attention. This. Leona stared at the trending topic with herself in disheveled clothing, too shocked to react, dumbfounded on the spot. At that moment, a panicked man hurried in, pushing a wheelchair. It was Hunter. When he entered and saw Leona clutching her face, he ignored her and anxiously rushed to me, hastily trying to explain. Amy, someone deliberately set me up. Leona and I are innocent. Those photos were taken at an angle to make it look like something happened. I coldly stared at Hunter, once again disgusted by this man. Chapter 8. Even at this point, Hunter still wanted to lie. Unfortunately, he didn't know. I was the one who arranged for those photos to be taken. And I was the one who leaked his secret tryst with Leona to the paparazzi. Amy. Perspective shots. I raised my hand and slapped Hunter across the face. Hunter tumbled to the ground, the wheelchair crashing into his legs, causing him to grimace in pain. I've been wanting to slap this scumbag for a long time. And today, I finally got the chance. I must say, it felt incredibly satisfying. Hunter. Leona hurried over to help him up, casting a venomous glare at me. Amy, are you crazy? How can you attack us over a baseless rumor on social media? Whether it's baseless or not, why don't you take a look at the video and then try to deny it? I reached out and pressed the play button on my laptop. Soon, a video started playing on the projector screen opposite. In the video, Leona and Hunter were passionately kissing in a room, already starting to tear each other's clothes off in the wheelchair. Seeing this scene, both Hunter and Leona's faces turned pale. Stop it. Stop it. Turn it off. Leona frantically tried to cover her exposed body on the screen. Hunter, do you have anything else to say? I coldly looked at Hunter. Hunter, you don't love her anyway. Since she already knows, why not just come clean? Hunter hadn't yet figured out what to say, but Leona, on the other hand, stopped pretending. Hunter grabbed her, trying to shut her up. But Leona wasn't listening at all. She was eager to settle the score for the slap she'd just received. Yes, I was with Hunter last night. Amy, you should know your place. Divorce him quickly, and consider this 800,000 yuan as your divorce settlement. Otherwise, don't expect to get a penny. Chapter 9. The phrase "a petty person gaining power" fits Leona perfectly. She probably thinks she's won? Hey. I lowered my head and looked at Hunter, who had just sat back in his wheelchair. What do you have to say? Amy, I've already wronged you, and I can't wrong Leona anymore. We should get divorced. At this point, Hunter no longer pretended. You. I staggered back 2 steps, tears welled up in my eyes, and I made myself look as devastated as possible. The office door was open, and this scene played out before the entire company. Hunter's reputation as a scumbag was now cemented. Immediately, the artists outside the door started looking at Hunter and Leona with disdain. This was exactly the effect I wanted. After Hunter's accident, when he lost his legs, everyone saw him as the weaker party. If I had asked for a divorce back then, people would have accused me of being heartless, abandoning my husband as soon as something went wrong, and trying to wash my hands of everything. But now, Hunter had recovered under my care, yet he still cheated on me with someone else. See, the narrative changes. Now, I'm the one being pitied. To further enhance my image as the victim, I wiped away a tear and spoke in a hoarse voice, "Fine. Have the divorce papers sent to my office. Now, get out of my sight, both of you. Since you're getting divorced, you should also leave the company. I don't want my husband's ex-wife wandering around here. It makes me uncomfortable." Leona said this while clinging to Hunter's arm and pouting. "Hunter, you promised you'd make me feel at ease, right?" I stared at Hunter. Hunter didn't dare meet my gaze and turned his face away. But his tone was firm. "Amy, you don't need to come to the company anymore." I wasn't surprised that Hunter would say this. But hearing it with my own ears still made my heart ache. Scumbags are truly heartless. I let out a cold laugh. "You're kicking me out of the company for Leona?" Hunter remained silent. But his silence said it all. Leona grew even more smug, her grin nearly reaching her ears. She threw me a taunting smile, as if saying, "Amy, you refused to let me off when I begged on my knees. Now I'll make sure you lose everything. Go ahead and laugh. The more you gloat, the harder you'll fall later. Fine, I'll leave." With tears in my eyes, I turned to leave. Just as I turned around, a tall, handsome figure appeared, saying, "Amy, if you leave, I'll leave with you." Chapter 10. It was none other than Kevin. The pillar of the company after Hunter's accident. The moment Kevin spoke up, Hunter's face changed drastically. Hunter forced a smile, trying to calm the situation. "Kevin, what are you talking about? This is between Amy and me. Don't get involved. Amy has been with you for 6 years, from nothing to where you are today. She also personally took care of you after your accident. But now, you're divorcing her and kicking her out of the company for another woman. If you're so heartless to your wife, I doubt you care much about us employees either." As Kevin spoke, he turned to the group of artists still watching from the doorway. "When I was falsely accused of being a pedophile, Hunter wanted to terminate my contract and abandon me because he couldn't clear my name. This shows just how cold and profit-driven he really is. If I, a senior member of the company, am treated this way, you all should think carefully about your own situations." Hearing this, several people in the company who had already been unhappy with Hunter quickly sided with Kevin. The company's second male lead, "I'll go with Amy." The third female lead, "I'll go with Amy too." A few other artists who were close to me also expressed their intention to leave with me. With that, most of the company's money-making artists were about to walk out, and Hunter turned pale. He was in a complete panic. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. I looked at Hunter with cold eyes, humming quietly to myself. "Hunter, did you really think I came back to the company these past 2 months just to hang around? I was here to win people's hearts. All for this day." Chapter 11. Go ahead, leave. Stop trying to scare us. Do you really think the company won't function without you? You people are getting old, so it's just as well you're leaving. We can bring in some young, fresh talent. Leona, still oblivious to the gravity of the situation, defiantly taunted us. Hunter shot her a fierce glare. "Shut up, Hunter." But this time, Hunter wasn't gentle. Seeing his dark expression, Leona had no choice but to fall silent. Hunter took a deep breath and turned to Kevin and the others. "Leona's words may be harsh, but she's not entirely wrong. You all need to think carefully. And have you considered the termination fees for leaving the company? Can you afford to pay them?" Hunter said this with a smile, but it was a veiled threat. For a moment, the office fell silent. Hunter's lips curled up ever so slightly. "I'll cover the termination fees." Before his smug grin could fully form, I froze it in its tracks. When I said that, all the artists erupted in excitement. Hunter's hand clenched tightly. This time, he couldn't manage a smile. But he still pretended to be concerned for me. Amy, think this through. The termination fees for these people are substantial. If you're worried about me, you'd better worry about yourself. Think about how long your company can last from here on. With that, I let a group of key players out of the office. Chapter 12. The divorce proceedings between Hunter and me ended up in court due to the complicated interests involved. Since he was the one at fault for cheating, I demanded emotional compensation. And that wasn't all. Under the guise of marital property, I also demanded the return of the 800,000 yuan Hunter had given to Leona. In the end, I not only reclaimed the shares I was owed, but Leona also had to transfer the 800,000 yuan back to me. After receiving the divorce certificate, I updated a Weibo post, Rebirth. The accompanying picture was of my divorce certificate with Hunter. I didn't say a word about the affair between Hunter and Leona, but the paparazzi dug up everything about their affair and how they kicked me out of the company. Hunter and Leona trended on social media for 3 days as they were relentlessly criticized. Hunter's media company also saw its stock plummet due to the scandal, losing billions overnight. That evening, Hunter called me. It wasn't until the phone rang for the 10th time that I leisurely answered, "Hello. Amy, you did this on purpose, didn't you?" Hunter's voice on the other end was filled with rage, as if he wanted to leap through the phone and bite me. I swirled the wine in my glass, watching his stock continue to plummet, and played dumb. I was just celebrating my escape from a scumbag. Is there something wrong with that? Hunter was speechless for a few seconds, then growled, "Do you really have to go this far? Can't you remember the good times we had? Listen to this nonsense. Who's the one who cheated on me twice with Leona and pushed me to the brink? And now he expects me to care about our past? Ridiculous. What good times are you talking about? Was it when I drank until my stomach bled to get you business deals? Or when you kicked me out of the company after cheating on me?" I slammed my glass down on the table and said coldly, "Hunter, where do you get the nerve to bring up the past with me? Scumbags deserve to die." "Fine, Amy. Fine. Just wait." Now that everything was out in the open, Hunter furiously hung up after spitting out, "Amy, just wait. I won't let you have it easy." Great. That really set me off. I almost wanted to crawl through the phone and slap the scumbag twice. Chapter 13. A few days later. I secured a business deal for Kevin and was on my way to sign the contract today. But just as I reached the client's company, they suddenly changed their mind. "Amy, we're really sorry, but we've decided to give this advertising deal to someone else." "What do you mean? Didn't you agree to sign with us yesterday?" Kevin, with his short temper, blurted out angrily. I patted his arm, signaling him to stay calm. Although this last-minute change was infuriating, it's unwise to offend the powerful. "Well, your business deal was snatched by me." Just as the staff member was about to explain, Hunter appeared, being pushed in by Leona. "Kevin, this is the new company you chose. Their business skills are so terrible that they can't even hold on to deals." Leona looked at me with eyes full of mockery and scorn. "Shameless." Kevin clenched his fists in anger. I held on to Kevin's arm, signaling him to keep his cool. "It's Amy's fault. She caused Leona and me to be criticized by everyone. Taking away one of your deals is just a small lesson for you." Hunter looked at me and flashed a provocative smile. I knew Hunter was shameless, but I didn't expect him to be so brazen. I really wanted to kick him to death. But I held back. After all, hitting someone is illegal. It's just a small deal. If it falls through, I'll find a better one. But Hunter acted like a mad dog, snatching away every deal I secured for Kevin. It wasn't because he had better resources, but because he was willing to lower prices. This was undoubtedly malicious competition. After he took 3 of my deals in a row, Kevin was so angry he wanted to chop Hunter into pieces. I reassured him to stay calm. Since someone insists on going against me, let's settle both new and old scores together. After all, the weather's getting colder. The scumbag deserves to go bankrupt. Chapter 14. Sis, are you really going to let me take this script? One day, I brought Kevin to meet the director. Just before getting out of the car, with only the 2 of us left, Kevin, who had been conflicted the whole way, couldn't hold back anymore. "But But I've heard that this script hasn't passed the broadcast review, they haven't secured any investment, and the role doesn't seem that great either. Kevin had been in the industry long enough to have his own connections and sources. In his eyes, this script was terrible. Not worth taking on. I know. I smiled faintly. Kevin was stunned. Then why are you letting me take it? I'm only bringing you along for show. For show? Yes. I turned off my phone and patiently explained to Kevin, I suspect there's a mole in our company. Otherwise, every time I secure a deal for you, Hunter somehow knows exactly which company it is and swoops in to steal the deal overnight. Since Hunter wants to steal the resources from under my nose, why not turn the tables and trap him instead? Kevin is smart, and he quickly understood my plan. He cooperated fully in the upcoming audition, even acting desperate for the role. When I signed the contract with the director, Hunter indeed swooped in again and successfully snatched the project from me. Well, sorry to say, but your deal ended up in my hands again. On the day of the signing, he smugly flaunted the contract in my face. Amy, I heard your company hasn't secured a single deal lately. This was the project you were most optimistic about, and now it's gone. Looks like you'll be struggling for the rest of the year. Exactly. Leona chimed in, grinning with pride. I clenched my fists and said nothing. Hunter grew even more arrogant. Amy, I don't really need this deal. How about this? Considering how you worked tirelessly for me to build this company over the years, I'll do you a favor. If you're willing to kneel down to me, I'll give this contract back to you. Leona added fuel to the fire. Ha ha ha, Amy, don't be shy. Kneeling to get a deal isn't a loss. Don't be too arrogant. Instead of getting angry, I calmly warned them. But Hunter took my kindness for weakness, mocking me for being all talk and no action. Since that's how he sees it, I'll have to show him what I'm capable of. Chapter 15. After Hunter signed the deal for his artist, he had no energy left to compete with me. At this point, he was entirely focused on this project. Because he believed it would be a hit. The reason behind his confidence? It was because of me. I had, more than once, pretended to be drunk and deliberately expressed my high hopes for this project at the company. I even said several times that if it were up to me, I would invest all my assets in it. The mole in the company passed my words to Hunter verbatim. Hunter believed it completely and poured all his resources into it. Then, on the day the drama wrapped up, I exposed the plagiarism scandal of the original novel, making it a trending topic. The novel was taken down, and naturally, the drama adapted from it couldn't proceed due to copyright issues. Hunter's entire investment went down the drain. The company, burdened with too much debt, declared bankruptcy. He and Leona were forced to sell their villa and move into a shabby, old apartment. That same year, I rooted out the mole Hunter had planted in my company and then secured a dual male lead TV drama for Kevin. At the time, Hunter mocked me, saying that despite securing resources, I could only get web dramas for my artists. But this web drama turned out to be a massive hit upon release. Kevin skyrocketed from a third-tier actor to a top-tier star. With Kevin's newfound popularity, I started packaging some of my other company actors in the projects he was involved in. Even though it was a package deal, the actors under my company were talented, and the directors were happy to work with them. Gradually, all the artists under me began to thrive in the entertainment industry. They landed numerous deals. And I made a fortune in the process. At the end of the year, during the celebration party, I booked a venue to celebrate with them. But as soon as I arrived at the club, I saw Leona sitting on the lap of a man old enough to be her grandfather. Her delicate hands caressed his neck, and her red lips kissed him passionately. Chapter 16. Isn't she with Hunter? Who's this guy now? Kevin asked curiously, noticing that the man beside Leona had changed. I hadn't been paying much attention to Hunter and Leona lately. But I had heard some things. After Hunter went bankrupt, he still tried to make a comeback, borrowing a lot of money from loan sharks to start a new company. But all his investments failed, and his situation only got worse. When Leona saw that he was no longer useful, she moved on to someone else. That someone was the old man in front of us. Word had it that Leona's affair was already widely known. Hunter, is this your true love? Ha! I was about to leave when I saw Hunter rushing over in a wheelchair. He slapped Leona hard across the face, shouting, "You bitch! How dare you hit me?" Leona, enraged, kicked Hunter's wheelchair viciously. Hunter fell to the ground with a loud crash. "You bitch, you! Arg!" He tried to prop himself up with his hands, but Leona's high heel stomped down hard on his hand, causing him excruciating pain. His veins bulged, and he howled in agony. "Touch me again, and I'll cripple your hand too." Leona pressed down harder with her foot. Hunter's shirt was soaked in sweat from the pain, and he lay limp on the ground. Looking at the vicious Leona, he was filled with hurt. "I divorced my wife for you, how could you treat me like this?" "It wasn't me who asked you to divorce her, you did it willingly." Leona rolled her eyes. "You." Hunter tried to get up, but Leona kicked him again. His head hit the table, and blood started gushing out, causing quite a commotion. Hunter was seriously injured and passed out on the spot. Leona didn't even spare him a glance. She wiped her hand disdainfully, as if disgusted by his touch, then linked arms with the old man and headed to the hotel across the street. Chapter 17. The club manager, fearing things would get out of hand, called the police. Hunter was taken away, and the farce came to an end. Serves him right. Kevin, always outspoken, almost clapped in celebration. He had such a good woman like Amy and still went after that White Lotus Leona. He brought this on himself. Indeed, he deserved it. Hunter's rebirth was completely wasted. He failed in business, lost his legs, and his true love ran off with an old man. Seeing him in such a miserable state filled me with satisfaction. In a good mood, I gave out red envelopes to every employee in the company to celebrate. By the time Kevin drove me home, it was already 1 a.m. As soon as I got out of the car, I noticed Hunter waiting for me. In the moonlight, Hunter had bandages wrapped around his forehead, his lips were pale, and he looked like he'd just come from the hospital. "What are you doing here?" I didn't say anything, but Kevin immediately stepped in front of me, worried that Hunter might harm me. "You're not welcome here." Hunter ignored Kevin. He choked up as he looked at me. "Amy, I was wrong. It's all my fault. I had such a good wife, but I let that bitch Leona blind me." Saying this, Hunter began slapping himself repeatedly. The sound of the slaps echoed loudly. Kevin and I exchanged a bewildered glance. "What? Abandoned by Leona, and now you've realized how good Amy was?" Kevin's face darkened as he pulled me into his arms, as if afraid that I might be swayed by this scumbag's words. "Stop having thoughts you shouldn't. Leave Amy alone." Hunter continued to ignore Kevin, stubbornly staring at me. I patted Kevin, "Let me talk to him." "All right." Kevin frowned at me but eventually stepped aside. "Amy, I knew it. You still love me, don't you?" Hunter's eyes lit up as he joyfully grabbed my hand. I coldly pulled my hand away. Hunter was stunned. "Amy. Don't call me by my name. You're not worthy." I glared at Hunter, my voice growing colder. "Amy, I know you hate me for cheating with Leona, but I had my reasons." Hunter tried to reach out to grab my hand but recoiled under my icy stare. "Because in our previous life, you were in a coma for 3 years after a car accident, and Leona was the one who helped me through those low years. I never imagined that the person who was so affectionate to me in the previous life could be so heartless in this one." I still held on to the affection of our previous life's marriage and wanted to protect her. Hunter's eyes filled with anger as he spoke. I just watched him coldly. "Amy, I know you'll think I'm lying, but I believe you." You believe that I was reborn?" Hunter looked at me in shock. "Yeah." I looked at him with a half smile. "Because you're not the only one who was reborn." In that instant, Hunter's pupils shook like an earthquake. I stood in the moonlight, watching as his face drained of all color. "Hunter, the Amy who loved you died the moment you signed the consent form in our previous life." At this point, I didn't bother pretending anymore. I just wanted to stab this scumbag Hunter right in the heart. "Hunter, you're truly pathetic. You chose Leona in both lives and ended up miserable both times. Even your son isn't yours. Perhaps this is your retribution?" Hunter, provoked, stared at me in disbelief. "What did you say? My son? isn't mine. In my previous life, although I was in a vegetative state, I could hear everything that was happening outside. Leona herself admitted that the son wasn't yours, he was her ex-boyfriend's child. As the child grew, he looked less and less like you. Fearing you'd find out, she conspired with her ex, who was a doctor, to drug you and cause you to drown. After I finished speaking, Hunter stood there, frozen. Was he in shock from the truth? I was about to take a step forward to check on him when Hunter suddenly burst into maniacal laughter. Ha ha ha. No wonder I felt dizzy that day. Leona, you bitch, you fucking bitch. Chapter 18. The next day. When I woke up from my hangover, Hunter was no longer outside the door. What, still thinking about your scumbag ex-husband? Kevin pouted, clearly displeased as he handed me a bowl of hangover soup. I chuckled softly. Jealous? Yes. Kevin suddenly hugged me, his big, dark eyes looking at me pitifully. From now on, sis, your heart and eyes can only be on me. Stop it, you're still young. I gently pushed Kevin away and headed to the bathroom. In this life, I have no interest in men. I prefer making money. Later, I focused all my energy on earning money. As for Hunter, I never saw him again. 2 months later, a woman's body was found by someone fishing. It was confirmed to be Leona. When they found her, her face was swollen and pale from being submerged in water. That once beautiful face was slashed, her tongue cut out, and it was said that her lower body had been burned with a hot iron. Her death was truly horrific. Not long after, Hunter was caught and brought to justice. She deserved to die, she deserved to die. She made me lose the person who loved me the most, made me lose my legs, left me with nothing. She deserved to die, she deserved to die, ha ha ha. Even on the day Hunter was escorted away, he laughed hysterically at the cameras. He looked completely deranged. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sigh. It took Hunter 2 lifetimes to realize who truly loved him. A bit too late, isn't it? But none of that concerns me anymore. I glanced at the sunflowers outside the window. I just know that from now on, my life will only get better and better.